The challenge is that the guy who made the choices to make $50 million a year ends up with the ability to fuck with your simple life. Therein lies the challenge, right? You know, if I've made a commitment to the sacred and I am living a simple, peaceful, wholesome life, right? I take care of myself. I take care of my kin, those people with whom I have established relationships of kinship. I take care of my community, right? I am, you know, peaceful and kind and wise and generous, filling all the virtues. I am a loser, capital L, in the complicated game that we are currently addicted to, right? And so the game theoretic construct, if you're a teenager, right, you're looking out like, oh, I could be like that guy and be a fucking loser and have everything I own taken away by this institutional, you know, the bulldozer, you know, bulldozering over the beautifully made temple. It's funny, it just came to my mind. There was a place, the Hill of Tara in Ireland. And it's like a sacred, very long standing, like thousands of year old sacred space. And I actually remember being in communication with a man in Ireland who was trying to put together a sort of a protest to prevent it from having like a highway plowed right through the middle of it.
Right.
And he failed. Right. So if I'm a kid watching that, the moral lesson is heartbreak and failure is on this side of the equation, and a slightly faster commute to Dublin's on this side of the equation. Right. And so it actually takes a unusual character to choose the path of being a loser than to choose the path of being what do we want to turn this over here is like this. It's like a very particular term that describes somebody who exchanges their long-term meaningfulness, right, for short-term simulation of winning. You know, something like a vampire or a shade or or it's Cypher. It's actually perfectly Cypher. We have that metaphor. Cypher from the Matrix.
Yep.
You know, you can either choose to be, you know, out of the Matrix, eating, you know, simulated gruel and having a wacky haircut, or you can choose to be inside the Matrix, having delicious simulated steak. And it takes an unusual person to actually choose to really truly exit the Matrix. Now, of course, the proposition is if we design this thing right, the thing on the other side is actually not always going to be heartbreak and lose. Right? That's my point. Like we have to actually.
That's right.
That actually needs to become strong enough that it maintains its integrity and can actually impose its dispositions on the larger structure.
Totally. Which is exactly, remember when I called you when we talked on you were driving your RV and I called you, remember? And I said, oh, I want to tweak something because there's a crucial distinction in the unified theory between social influence and relational value.
Yeah. Okay. Keep going.
Right? Okay. So the argument is that we're primates. So we're super tracking our place in the social matrix. Okay. And it's called the influence matrix because we're tracking both the process of influence and we're tracking social influence as a resource, which is, hey, how much can I move you so that your actions invest back in me? That's the basic, and that's the instrumental frame for survival, reproductive success. And that at the basic mechanics of natural selection, that's key. Okay. And I called it the influence matrix because high influence is a hell of a lot better than low influence across survival and reproductive success. That's straightforward. All right. But then as I was doing clinical work, I noticed something. All right. And that was a lot of people who had high influence were empty. Okay. And they felt like imposters. They faked it. Okay. And the two issues that were happening were a lot of people had low influence and were not valued. Okay. Well, you're shit if you're hating that. Right. But some people have high influence, but they feel valued for their persona, but not for who they are. Okay. There are other people that have high influence that know they aren't valued, but they have power. Okay. And all of those individuals don't feel grounded in the essential valuing of being, which is actually being known and valued by important others and having reasonable influence. That's the ground of being. That feeds the soul. Okay. And so what we did with capital labor relations